Hey, what's happening? Brian Willett here. This morning I was coaching a group of salespeople, and these salespeople all have the right attitude. They're all committed. They're all in it to win it. And something I shared with them, and I want to share it with you today, is very simply that their employer, the person who writes the check for them, is looking for value. Okay, and so they're looking at these salespeople and they're asking themselves, the owner of the company is asking themselves, what type of value do these salespeople bring to our company? And the more value you bring to the company, the more money you make. Okay, that's just the bottom line. The more value you bring to your employer, the more money you make. And these people are in sales, okay? So they're directly tied to the amount of revenue that comes into the organization. So guess what? They should make more money, right? The more sales they make, the more value they bring to their company, the more money they're going to make. And so it just made me think about something that I learned years ago from a mentor of mine. He said something simply as, Brian, if you want to earn more money, you got to learn to bring more value. You have to bring more value. People get paid, okay, based off of the value they bring to the market, okay? So if you think about the market, you think about the economy as a whole, the more value you bring to the market, the more money you get paid. Now, we're all valuable family members, okay? We're all valuable members of our community or members of our church. But the market only pays for value that you bring to the market. So what type of skills do you bring to either your employer or to the market that people are willing to pay for? And that's how we get paid. That's how we get compensated. And so when my mentor shared with me, he said, Brian, if you want to get paid more, you got to bring more value. Okay? And it just went off like a light bulb in my head. I said, how can I become more valuable? And so I had to go and I had to get new skills, okay? And so I had to skill up so I could bring more value to my employer. And as I look back on my career, the more value that I added to myself, okay, the more I developed personally, the more value I bring to an employer, the more value I bring to the market, okay, the more value I bring to now my clients that I'm working with. The only way I can bring value to them is if I continue to add value to myself, which means I must continue to learn, I must continue to develop, I must continue to read, I must continue to develop the skills that they're looking for, okay? I must develop the skills that they're willing to pay for. And so if you want to become more valuable, all right, and we've already said we're all valuable human beings, but if you want to become more valuable to the market, you have to increase your skills, okay? And so if you want to add more value to your employer, from a sales standpoint, you got to develop your sales skills. If you want to be a leader in your organization, you're going to have to develop your leadership skills. And the more you develop those skills, the more value you can bring to the employer, or the more value you bring to the market, and the more somebody is willing to pay you. Okay? And so that's what it's all about, is how can you increase your value? I listen to a talk show, sports talk show each day, and they were recently talking about the most valuable player in the NBA, okay? And so which one of the NBA players bring the most value either to their organization or to the league as a whole? And it's just funny, I think, I know a lot of people think obviously LeBron James is the most valuable because he brings the most spotlight to the NBA, but the most valuable player ended up being Russell Westbrook, who averaged a triple-double. And so in the NBA, they believe that's the most valuable player. Okay, so they bring the most to their team, most to the NBA, etc. But so let me ask you this question. How valuable do you want to be? And are you willing, this is the key, are you willing to skill up or learn up, okay, to become even more valuable so you can eventually get paid more money? And that's the question I have for you. Really, it's a challenge. That's the challenge I have for you. Are you willing to skill up or learn up to increase your value to the market, okay? Because that's the only way you can increase your value to the market is by developing your skills. Or you develop a product of some type and you bring it to the marketplace that adds value to the marketplace. You know, the best example I can give is if you think about Steve Jobs, right? Sure, they created a lot of products, but how valuable was the product that he brought to the economy, to the world, the little iPhone? Okay, you can look up the stock history, you can look up how much Apple is worth, and you can say, you know what, they were pretty valuable. That one little invention, okay, which came from Mr. Jobs, who led the organization, was pretty valuable, and they got paid accordingly. And so we all have that same opportunity on a given day. We can become more valuable to our organization by increasing our skills, increasing what we bring to the table. And so that's my challenge for today is, when was the last time you increased your value to the marketplace? And if it's been a while, what can you do today to increase your value to your employer or increase your value to the market? And that's my challenge for you. And my last question I have for you, and I'll end on this, and please share this video with others. Go to my Facebook page, Brian Willett Group, like my Facebook page. And but my final question for you is, how valuable do you want to be? Okay, how valuable do you want to be to the marketplace? Because you can become as valuable as you want to the marketplace. And it's up to you. You just got to skill up and learn up. Make it a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.